the MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
Teller checking in once again. We'll cut straight to the chase. You know, the teller's been very busy as of recently. I just tied the knot this last Saturday. Wasn't able to watch UFC Fight Night 154 live, which, that's the first in a long time. I watch my fights. I don't miss them, but I think I had a valid excuse. I was celebrating marrying a beautiful woman. And, that was a great thing that I got to do. But in one sense, it was a shame because I missed a solid bet that I definitely would have hit, and that was Ashley Yoder. I just knew I wasn't going to be able to watch the fights. I didn't have my full attention to the card, but was definitely eyeing Ashley Yoder. She came through nice from what I saw some highlights. Overall, Korean Zombie looked great in the main event. Solid win for him. And, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm celebrating now. I'm on my honeymoon, so I don't want to trick any of you guys or mislead any of you guys. This card, coming up this Saturday, here tomorrow, UFC on ESPN 3, Ngannou versus Dos Santos, doesn't have my full attention as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, I will still pick these fights better than any of these other guys out there, but I wasn't able to put the full amount of time like I usually do breaking down fight footage. I still did put a lot of time in still on this card. Even on my honeymoon, I'm still getting it in, but I don't want to mislead you guys, so I'll do my best to break these fights down. I'm going to make it quick. But other than that, I got to get back to my honeymoon and enjoying my life, on the outskirts of betting. But you know what it will be next weekend? We have a big card coming up next weekend. John Jones versus Marreta, Thiago Santos. And things will be in full effect. I'll be back in town Monday, and I'll be cramming tape, even as soon as Sunday, so things will get right back to normal. But let's get it. Let's break down this upcoming fight card this Saturday. UFC on ESPN 3, Ngannou versus Dos Santos. So let's get right to it. Teller's quick picks. In the first fight of the night, we got Maurice Green taking on Junior Albini. The line is pretty much even at this point. And, I could see why people would favor each one of these guys. Albini seems to have the more crisp stand-up, but I am not a fan of his whatsoever. Has bad cardio issues, comes in very much overweight, looks like he's just eating junk food before his fights. I'm not a fan of his. On a 3-fight skid right now. He lost 3 fights in a row. Maurice Green's coming off another victory and a fight that he had redemption in. He lost to his opponent before that, and he had a nice solid comeback win. And I like him. He has the size, he has the reach, and he's a very active fighter. And I think he has more heart. I think there's more fight in him than Junior Albini. So I'm going to lean Maurice Green. Even I would say a potential play if you want to put a little bit of money. It's a pick'em fight. So like I said, Maurice Green, he's a dog, and he looks to be good, man. His jiu-jitsu solid too. Pulled off a triangle off his back in his first official UFC fight. So yeah, the pick is Maurice Green. All right, up next, we got Emily Spitfire Whitmire taking on Amanda Ribas, the Brazilian. I don't necessarily like where the line's at, but I'm going to favor Emily to pull this fight off. I like her jiu-jitsu game. She's very good with her jiu-jitsu. Her stand-up's slowly getting better. Definitely needs to work on her stand-up. Amanda Ribas, this is a girl that has a finished loss to Polyana Viana, who's not the best of fighters, so definitely that's a question mark on her. Although, her striking's looking decent from what I've saw on Instagram and whatnot. So, if there's a chance Amanda wins this fight, maybe she keeps it standing and is able to get the better of the exchanges on the feet. But until proven otherwise, I'll take Emily to win this fight, but this is definitely not a fight I would want to have any money on. So the pick is Emily Whitmire. All right, guys, these picks are coming out hot, huh? Next fight, we got Dalcha Langim. How you say this name? Dalcha Langimala from South Africa taking on Dequan Townsend. I know Dequan is taking this fight on short notice. Dalcha was supposed to be fighting Ledette. Ledette pulled out, so Dequan's taking this fight on short notice. And from everything I've seen, looking up quickly, I think Dequan is the inferior fighter from the get-go. So, this is Dalcha's. This is his fight to win. He's a dual champ in another organization, light heavyweight. Striking looks decent. He's been preparing for this fight, so you got to lean Dalcha. I believe his first name is Dalcha, so we'll lean him to win this fight. Of course, obviously, I don't have enough action. I don't have any action on this fight. Didn't put enough time on it to really make a solid play. Don't necessarily like where the line is either, so wouldn't be touching this fight. All right, up next, we got Jared Gordon taking on Dan Moret. Shout out to Jared Gordon. Definitely a friend of the show. Met him a few times. Look forward to speaking with him again, man. I bump into him down here in South Florida. Solid dude. Maybe one day in the future I'll even have him on the show. We were hanging out at the Extreme Action Park for Titan FC a couple weeks back. Really an awesome dude. And he's a pretty big favorite to win this fight against Dan Moret, and I understand why. I mean, maybe the line's kind of high for a guy coming off 3 losses, I think, actually. But, the guys that he's lost to are solid fighters, cream of the crop in the UFC. So Dan Moret he's on a different step. He's down below. He's in the bottom of the staircase. So Dan Moret's a tough dude. He's a grappler. He's going to try to push you up against the fence, maybe get a takedown. I do not think that's going to work against a guy like Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon's a solid wrestler himself. And he's a buzzsaw, man. He runs through guys. So I think this is going to be a good stylistic matchup for him, where he'll win the exchanges on the feet and he'll out-grapple Dan too. He'll keep this fight standing if he wants to. He'll do what he wants to do. I think Jared's going to come through, and I'll be happy to see him get a nice victory in the UFC. So shout out to Jared Gordon. All right, guys, excuse me again. I'm sorry that my picks are not so much in depth. Again, you guys, please understand. I really just, like I said, didn't have the time to cram the tape like I like to. And, the margaritas are waiting for me as I speak. So, just take that into consideration and just know the teller will be back very, very solid for this upcoming event. Not this Saturday, but a week from Saturday for the John Jones, Thiago Santos card. So, don't forget who the teller is and what I'm about. But I'm giving you guys these picks nice and quick. Just understand the situation, my brothers. Up next, we have definitely a possible leg for a parlay, man. I think Jordan Griffin, he's taking on Vince Murdoch. This guy, Vince Murdoch, trains at Team Alpha Male, short, stubby guy. Just completely fighting on I don't even know, I wouldn't want to say the regional scene, whatever you want to call it. I mean, this guy's fighting over in India on some type of MTV show. Definitely was not impressed from what I saw from him at all. The guys that he's fought, just horrific. And then you got a guy like Jordan Griffin, who's a solid mixed martial arts fighter. Trains at a reputable camp. This guy is very, very well-rounded, coming off a tough loss against Dan Ige. And, as you guys seen, Dan is no joke. So, that shows you how good of a fighter Jordan is, because that was a very close fight. I don't think this guy, Vince, is going to be on the level, and I expect Jordan to exploit him, maybe take it to the ground and just really mix it up and just show his well-versed mixed martial arts game. So, Jordan Griffin, and I would say a possible leg in a parlay. If you see something else you like, maybe mix him up with it. Because I think he's like a minus 400 right now. Hopefully you could have got him earlier and got him at a better line, but even at minus 400, I just don't see Jordan losing this fight. So Jordan Griffin to hopefully even get a finish against Vince Murdoch. Maybe not. This guy Vince might be a tough dude, but I don't think he'll have the skills to compete with Jordan. So Jordan Griffin to win this fight. Up next, we got the tough dude, man, Eric Anders, taking on Vinicius Moreira. Vinicius has a very good jiu-jitsu game. Stand-up is not that good. He stands very much upright. His striking is just, it's not on the level. Eric Anders, though, man, he really hasn't been looking so good as of late, man. He's really just leaving his head up there just on a tee. So guys have been teeing off on him. But I will say this much, he is tough as shit. I mean, he eats shots like no other. In his last fight against Khalil Roundtree, it was ridiculous that he just his lights didn't get shut out. So I don't expect Vinicius to have anything for Eric on the feet as far as finishing him. But if he's able to get this to the mat somehow, maybe he pulls off a submission. But other than that, I see, the tough, strong Eric keeping this on the feet, maybe bullying Vinicius against the cage and pulling off a decision win. Up next, we got Ricardo Ramos taking on Journey Newsom. Believe Newsom, yes, he's taking this fight on short notice. Pettis had to pull out. This guy, Journey Newsom, I believe he's 7-1 or 8-1. He's the newcomer. I mean, Ricardo's been in the UFC. He's been there. He's done his thing. Spinning elbow finishes. This guy, he's definitely shown some potential. Couple different, had a couple setbacks, but this guy's, like I said, he's definitely shown that he has some decent skills. And from the very, very limited amount of action I've seen Journey compete in, was not on the same level as Ricardo. I believe Journey's a little bit outsized as well. Might be more of a natural flyweight fighter. So I think Ricardo's is going to have some advantages that he will be able to exploit. And I'll take Ricardo Ramos to win this fight. Up next, we got Alonzo Menifield taking on Paul Craig. What do we say about this guy, Alonzo, man? He's looked very good ever since his first fight on the Tuesday Night Contender Series. This guy comes in, he comes to finish you. You know, he'll crack you in the head with his hands. Very athletic, strong dude. Got in the mixed martial arts game a little bit late, but you know, he's still in the prime of his his age and whatnot. He's a very athletic, healthy young dude. Hasn't had a lot of miles on his chin. And he's fighting a guy in Paul Craig who really doesn't carry a lot of power either. So even though they're fighting up at the light heavyweight division, I don't necessarily feel that he has a chance to be knocked out. At least not that good of a chance. You know, Paul Craig is going to come in there. He's going to look to pull off a submission. You know, he's going to try to use his toughness and his grit to maybe try to get this to the mat and maybe outclass Alonzo with some grappling. You know, I heard Alonzo was talking about he's not scared of the grappling and that he has some good ground and pound. I don't know if that's a good idea. You know, I would like him to keep the fight standing, and I think that's probably what he will do. Maybe he'll even get a finish. You know, Paul's been getting teed off on by a lot of guys, and I don't know how much longer his brain's going to take shots like that. So Alonzo might just put his lights out. Either way, this fight goes to decision. I think Alonzo will just be getting the better of the exchanges and bullying him around the cage. If Paul Craig wins this fight, he's going to somehow, you know, use his craftiness to pull off a submission. That's what he does. So let's see if he can pull that off. I don't think he will be able to do that. So, yeah, I got Alonzo winning this fight. Up next, we got Drew Dober taking on Marco Polo Reyes. You know, the line is high on Drew Dober, and I mean, Drew Dober is not the best of fighters. He's a solid fighter, but I kind of see why it's like this. You know, Marco Polo Reyes, you know, this might be a guy that doesn't deserve to be in the UFC. This is a guy, you know, in his last fight, he made Demir Hasnamek look like a solid fighter. You know, he took Marco down and ground and pounded him and really made Demir look like a solid fighter. And, you know, that really was shown to be not to be the case. You know, Demir had his next fight against Christos Giagos, and you saw Demir is really not that good of a fighter whatsoever. So for Marco to allow him to do what he did to him, you know, that shows you what kind of fighter he is. And you could see his record already. I mean, he doesn't have the best of records. You know, Marco's the type of guy, yeah, he has power in his hands, and if you give him an opportunity and you sit there and exchange with him, yeah, maybe he can knock you out, you know, as he's shown in the past. You know, he did that against Matt Frevola. Matt Frevola made a horrible decision to run to the middle and exchange with punches. Horrible decision. That would have been a fight that he would have easily won if he just took his time with that fight and used his wrestling. But, you know, Drew Dober, Muay Thai champion. This guy is great striking. I think he'll outstrike Marco on the feet. And his wrestling's been looking, you know, better and better. So I think if Drew wants to, but if he's smart, he should use his grappling and just completely exploit Marco's ground game and do what he wants to him on the mat. So, you know, I think Drew Dober could also be a potential leg in a parlay. You know, maybe you want to mix him with Jordan Griffin and make some money, you know, giving you guys some ideas out there. But, you know, I got Drew Dober to win this fight. Up next, we got Roosevelt Roberts taking on Vinc Pichel. You know, this one's tricky. You know, the line is high on Roosevelt Roberts. I was actually pretty surprised because Vinc Pichel, man, Vince from Hell Pichel, this guy's no joke. This guy's a very solid fighter. If you look at the guys he's lost to, you know, cream of the crop, man, guys like Gregor Gillespie. You know, if he loses to you, you're going to be a solid fighter. This guy ain't just losing to some nobody. So, and he's been around the game for a long time. He's getting up there in age, but still looks good, looks healthy. This guy, Roosevelt, man, really hasn't fought anyone that good at all. You know, those of you guys that keep up with me, you know I was actually kicking it with him a little bit after the weigh-ins in his last fight down here in South Florida. Super cool dude, and I think that the sky's the limit with this guy. You know, in his last fight against Gifford, dominated the first 2 rounds, but really didn't like the way he looked in that 3rd round. You know, Gifford came out, got a takedown, was pushing the pace in Roosevelt. But, you know, Roosevelt is a very solid fighter. He has good stand-up. His grappling is surprisingly, you know, very good for a guy like him for the amount of training that he's had. But, you know, I got to go with Roosevelt to win this fight. But as far as from a pure value stance, Vinc Pichel, you know, this guy, you're getting him at a plus 220 or something like that. I mean, your money's going a long way. You know, a solid fighter that has more experience. So don't be surprised if Vince pulls the upset off. So, you know, but I do pick Roosevelt Roberts to win this fight. Like I said, I just think that he's a little bit more athletic, younger, and this is his fight to win. Keeping it rolling, man. We're fucking throwing these things out there. Demian Maia taking on Anthony Rocco Martin. This is a fight, man. This is another tricky one. You know, Anthony Rocco Martin, he has good wrestling, and he's been looking good as of late, too. You know, nice little win streak going for him. But, you know, even in some of his wins that he's had recently, like against Sergio Moraes, Sergio came right across the cage and got a takedown immediately in that fight. Although Anthony was eventually, after that, he was able to stuff the takedowns. But that scares me, man, because against a guy like Demian comes straight across that cage and he pulls you down to the ground. You better believe he's going to get a submission. But here's the catch to that. If Anthony's able to stuff those takedowns or just let the fight prolong long enough for these guys to get a little bit tired, get that sweat going, I see Anthony Rocco Martin just running circles around Demian Maia. We know the recipe to beat him. You got to stuff those takedowns and then just outpoint him on the feet. Martin's striking has been looking better and better each fight. Shit, man. Yeah, I'm going to take Tony Martin to win this fight. I know, and you can get him at like plus 150 right now. At one point in time, you could have got him at plus 185. If you can get him at the right value, I think it's worth it. Don't get me wrong, though, man. I could see Maia getting the submission, of course. How do you go against Maia? But, I mean, this guy is almost 43 years old. You know, I'm going to take Tony Martin to win this fight, though. But this is not one of my most confident picks. This is a fight that can definitely go either way. But I'm gonna take Martin, like I said. Up next, in my opinion, we got a future Hall of Famer in Joseph Benavidez, one of the best flyweights / bantamweights to ever do it. I mean, not necessarily really a bantamweight, but fought the weight division a few times. This guy is a true stud. Taking on Jussier Formiga. Joseph Benavidez already won the first time they fought. Looked very dominant in that fight. Actually had some time to rewatch that fight. And I think Joseph's going to pull this fight off again. I think he's just a very intelligent, composed fighter. When he steps into the cage, he's not messing around. You know, he's not getting distracted. He knows what he's in for. And like I said, I mean, he just outclassed Jussier on the feet last time, got the finish. Jussier has been looking very good as of recently as well, but I don't see him having an opportunity to win this fight by using his jiu-jitsu. I think Benavidez will be able to nullify the jiu-jitsu game, and I think this fight will probably end up being a stand-up fight again, and I think Joseph Benavidez will get the best of it. So, you know, this is a possible play, but depending on where you can get him, you know, I know you could have got him at a better line early on. As of recently, some money's been coming in on him, so depending on your book. But I see Benavidez coming through, man. I really do. So, but again, Formiga is a very formidable opponent, so be careful with that. But Benavidez to win. All right, we got the main event of the night. We got Francis Ngannou taking on JDS, Junior Dos Santos, future Hall of Famer. In my opinion, again, we got another future Hall of Famer, man, we're going to be watching fight. Junior has been around, man. He's fought, you know, the who's who of the heavyweight division. Definitely still has power in his hands. You know, his body doesn't look to be the same as when he's younger. You know, he's getting older, a little bit softer. You know, Francis Ngannou, he went on that little 2-fight skid, but, you know, rebounded very, very solid. So this guy, you know, Francis carries a crazy amount of power in his hands, and Junior has shown that his chin has been a little bit weaker as of recently. If Francis touches him, flat out, Junior's going to sleep. Mark my words, man. It'll be just like the Alistair Overeem fight. I'm telling you. And when I say the Alistair Overeem fight, I'm talking about when Francis knocked him out, not when Alistair Overeem also knocked out Junior Dos Santos. But either way you want to mix it, it's going to go like one of those fights. If Francis connects, Junior's going to go to sleep. So, you know, I mean, if Junior is able to circle, let this fight, you know, get to the late rounds, if he's able to tire out Francis and maybe get some takedowns, that's really the only route I see him winning this fight. If he's able to get some takedowns, where Francis, kind of like the Stipe fight, where Francis is just a fish out of water, getting tired, and Junior's just dumping out his legs, and Francis is falling over. Maybe JDS will pull this fight off, but I don't know, man. I just don't see that happening. I really don't. I think Francis is going to finish him early. These guys are going to come out and they're going to exchange. And I just find it hard to believe that Francis won't touch him enough to make JDS fall. So, yeah, I'll pick Francis Ngannou to win the heavyweight fight. That's that main event. So I'll take him to win that fight. And I don't know, man. Shout out to JDS. I'm a big fan of his. I hope that he's able to have a really good game plan and he's able to pull that fight off. I just don't see it happening, like I said. So Francis Ngannou to win by knockout, first or second round. All right, guys, that's my UFC on ESPN 3 Ngannou versus Dos Santos predictions. You know, like I said, man, they came out quick. I hope you guys were able to keep up. If you guys have any questions, comment below, DM me on Instagram. I'll do my best to get to them. But like I said, man, I'm busy out here, so it might be a little hard for me. But things are going to be in full effect for UFC 239. John Jones taking on Santos. I got some solid plays coming up. I got a killer play that I already put in, man, a future bet that I would love to give you guys. For those of you guys that are interested in making big money long term, let me know. I'm telling you, man, I got a guaranteed hit, man, big money. So hit me up for that. And just know, guys, things are going to be all back to normal coming up next week. I'll get my video out nice and early Monday, Tuesday. Look for big things from the teller too, man. I got a couple big sports betting shows that are going to be having the teller on live, featured on the show. So I'll keep you guys up to date with that. You can see the teller doing his thing. And you guys all enjoy the weekend. Enjoy these fights, man, this Saturday, man. Take care. Signing out, the teller. The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.